Hey YouTube, it's Patrick, and today we'll be talking about the Legend of Hal Finney. Unfortunately, Hal passed away last week from his battle with ALS, otherwise known as Lou Gehrig's disease. The QR code that I'll be putting in the bottom right hand of the screen for this video belongs to the charity started by members of the Bitcoin community in honor of Hal. And they're going to do some kind of voting on this to see exactly which ALS charity or research center will receive this donation. And this donation site will be closed November 27th of 2014. So it will be closed as of Thanksgiving of 2014. Please donate if you'd like. Now, Hal, when I originally started this story, I kind of wanted to find some little proof or some, even open-ended thing that maybe that Hal was the original creator of Bitcoin, the original creator of Bitcoin, for those of you who do not know, went by this name Satoshi Nakamoto. Now, they found somebody in America that is actually born under the name Satoshi Nakamoto, who is pretty smart in math and is possible could have created it. That we will never know. The good news is Hal, to be a legend in Bitcoin and a legend of computer programmers, Hal doesn't need to be Satoshi Nakamoto. He pretty much already is a legend. And some of the weird facts, though, that I did find out about Hal is that he lived in the same city as this Dorian Nakamoto, or this Satoshi Nakamoto. And it's just at the same time when Bitcoin was being created. So it's just so crazy that these two guys, one did have something to do with Bitcoin for sure, meaning Hal, and this Dorian Nakamoto or Satoshi Nakamoto may have created it. So it's just crazy that if Dorian Nakamoto did create Bitcoin, he was literally sending these emails just miles away, and the first Bitcoin transaction happened just miles away. Another weird fact that I found is at one point there was a writing analysis company that was hired to take a look at Hal's writing, Dorian Nakamoto's, and a few other people that were, I guess you could say, the usual suspects of trying to figure out who is Satoshi Nakamoto. And at the time, the writing analysis team, who is a professional company and does writing analysis for like court cases and everything, so this isn't just somebody, oh, this looks like this guy, this is a professional company doing this. And they said, hey, it looks like you found your guy. This guy looks like he wrote the white paper. He might be Satoshi Nakamoto. However, it turns out that this is not quite the case, as in it denied by Hal himself and his family. And furthermore, they gave proof of this. One is the proof that they gave was the first Bitcoin transaction that was received by Hal. But the greatest proof that was given by his family was a group of emails that was sent in 2009 between Satoshi Nakamoto and Hal Finney. So it's basically these two talking about the problems and bugs that it had, and talking about fixes and everything. A total of 16 emails. So it's just really unlikely that Hal would, he might send Bitcoin to himself, but to do these emails back and forth, creating conversations with somebody, just to cover his tracks of something that's not even big yet. Back in 2009, Hal might have been, one of two Bitcoin miners when the difficulty was 1. So, it just isn't very unlikely that he's going to make this up. It would be different if the emails were in like 2013 when Bitcoin was already huge and worth a lot of money, that he would fake emails. But also his character denies this. Hal just wasn't that kind of guy that would lie, and especially so close to his death would still deny this and then lie about it. It's just not like Hal himself. Even though Hal Finney wasn't Satoshi Nakamoto and didn't necessarily create Bitcoin, you can easily argue that maybe Bitcoin wouldn't be around if it wasn't for Hal. When the community originally around Bitcoin was very skeptical that something like this could work, where Hal, with his positive attitude, he really liked the idea, and he often gave words of encouragement to Satoshi, as well as, communication with, pointing out bugs in the system and possible fixes and all that stuff. So it's quite possible that Bitcoin would not be around if it wasn't for Hal. And as a matter of fact, they say some of his programming is still at the very backbone of Bitcoin. So, you know, a very influential person when it comes to Bitcoin was Hal Finney. He was described as being a libertarian, and also, you know, liked privacy, and he worked on projects that were that supported this idea of decentralization and privacy. One of the first projects, I don't know if it's one of his first projects, but one of the projects he did work on was PGP, which stands for Pretty Good Privacy. I guess they're still around today. They're an emailing / messaging system that would be private, not being able to be traced. Now, he actually ghost wrote this, and like I said, was very involved at the beginning. But to stay out of trouble, they kept his name off of this code and this writing. So, you know, people could always argue, well, he did the same with Bitcoin, but like I said, it just doesn't seem likely. He also worked on other anonymous systems. He was the first person to create a proof of work, which is very impressive as well. And he's also belonged to this group called the Cyberpunks. And they were a group, a political group that believed in decentralization, and their motto was, "Cyberpunks write code." And it turned out later that it was Hal that wrote most of the Cyberpunks code. So, you know, people would still give him credit even though, you know, he didn't necessarily claim the credit. Of course, he made the first, he received the first Bitcoin transaction, which today's value would have been over $5,000. And the funny thing is, he never paid this back to Satoshi Nakamoto, never sent the Bitcoins back, just took them and whatever. But at the time, Bitcoin, if anything, was worth fractions of pennies, if nothing at all. So it's not like he maliciously didn't pay this guy back. It's just one of those things. It was worth nothing at the time, so, you know, he didn't think nothing of it at the time. Another thing is, he never really got rich off of Bitcoin itself, even though he was mining at a difficulty of 1. Unfortunately, he was diagnosed with ALS, and when the family decided to sell most of the Bitcoins that he had mined to cover the medical expenses and treatment for being at home, and which his family was totally satisfied with. They were able to, you know, spend the last years with Hal, you know, having this great treatment and everything. So, you know, they're not mad that they didn't get rich, and Hal was never mad that he didn't get rich. And it's almost the people you want to get rich off of this because they're, you know, so good and so nice and not really wanting and being greedy and everything. Hal was he is survived by his son Jason and his loving wife Fran. Now, and I don't know, once again, I don't know the Finneys. I've never talked to him before in my life, but I have just looked at pictures in researching this video, and you could really see just Fran's love and respect that she has, or had, for Hal, and it does really come through with the photos in her face, and I'm sure she is deeply saddened by his loss. And last but not least, Hal was not only smart, but he was modest as well. My favorite Hal story that I have read over the last couple of days in researching this video is that from high school, he used to sit in the back of his math classes, geometry and whatnot, and, you know, do the problems along with the teacher. However, he would find mistakes and errors in their formulas, and instead of correcting them right then and there in front of the whole class, and gaining attention for himself, and then, you know, kind of discrediting the teachers, he was more modest. He didn't do that. He would wait till the class had emptied at the end of class, and then, you know, tell the teachers, you know, they made an error here, a wrong answer here, or maybe they should look at this problem this way. You know, it might help them out. So, you know, more of a, instead of being malicious, he was more of a helpful person, which was just a great story, because even I would abuse that power if I was smarter than, you know, some, especially in school, you know, you're wrong, it's actually done this way, you know. So for Hal to be modest and smart, you know, is a really great attributes of a person. like I said, from all the videos and articles I read, he truly will be missed. And that, with that being said, you know, as Hal moves on to the big blockchain in the sky, I just want to say, after dealing with a loss myself of a close friend, the saddest funerals are those from people that will be truly missed. And being that, you know, if everybody likes you and you're a good person, and that's probably why they like you, is because you're a good person, they'll really miss you. And at your funeral, you'll see it on their faces. So I'm sure Hal's funeral will be really sad, because he'll truly be missed by not only his family, by Bitcoin enthusiasts like myself, but programmers as well.